We interrupt our scheduled programming with breaking news reports coming in from around the globe.
That's right, from America to the Caribbean, from West Africa to Europe, people are awakening to the truth about who the true chosen people of the Bible are.
Our field reporters have put together some recent testimonials from various individuals. The story may challenge your perspective.
So I'm going to tell you what's going on in America right now, but most of y'all are not going to like this. We are literally in a let my people go moment. Moses versus Pharaoh. I'm talking about plagues and all. Because after 400 years of oppression and marginalization, the black community rose up in 2020 to demand justice from Pharaoh. It came with a plague called COVID that left over 1 million people dead. Still, we did not listen. Instead, we hardened our hearts. So more plagues have followed. The second plague was the big lie, the loss of truth. The third plague was January 6th, the loss of the rule of law. The fourth plague, the plague of tariffs, the loss of economic stability. And the fifth plague, the plague of ICE raids, the loss of human dignity and decency. Our economy is shrinking. Our global standing in the world is diminishing. Our rights are being eroded every single day. And it's going to get worse and worse and worse until we listen to the voice of the black community calling for justice. Let my people go. And remember, those people didn't go away empty-handed. The Bible says they plundered the Egyptians, asking for silver and gold. So don't forget, the wealth transfer is part of the deal.
Might hurt some feelings, but guess what? The black people living in the Americas are the chosen people of God.
Shalom. My name is Ronette Brooks, and before I get started, I want to say all praises to the Most High. I am a Gentile. And it is very important because I know that Israelites that are in the truth and know who they are going to be hearing my voice. This is not about me, but I do want you to know enough about me that you can know a small piece of my heart. I have known who so-called African Americans are in the United States since 2019. The Most High allowed me to know that they were the tribe of Judah. I've learned since then that it might be some Benjamites in there and some Levites, but all I want to say is I am here with a humble heart, and I am infinitely in awe because I know that I'm speaking to the light of the world.
All right, I'm going to stop her right there. How does her and people like her know that we are the children of Israel, but you don't know that? How does she know we are the light of the world, but you don't know that? How does she know that if you're out here condemning people to hell, you're going to end up right in that same pit with them, but you don't know that? I want y'all to think of it. Wake up! Berean Scholar. Berean Scholar.
Waking up the people of the Most High. Got the knowledge to destroy the lies. DNA history, open eyes. Walk into the darkness and turn on the lights. Wake up, 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 wake up.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome again. Mosh Bikar, peace and blessing. As we get started for this, I wanted to sort of, so this is going to be a good subject. This is going to be a subject you want to be able to share. But before we get started, let me play this. All right, we want to Shema Israel. This is a call to all brothers and sisters. Welcome again to Berean Scholar. As you see, the topic tonight is biblical marriage. And my partner and brother from another mother is with me, Pastor Richardson. You here?
Yes, sir. How are you, sir?
I am doing great. I wasn't getting to praise and worship, but I said, no, we need to go and get into this.
No, definitely appreciate it. Look forward to the discussion. A lot to cover because, as you expressed, it's a lot of information, family. It's a lot of information to address something that's really, far as the head, really rising in the day and time we live in, that we cannot continue to downplay or overlook because it's affecting so many people.
And I'm going to pick up what you left off last night about being a watchman. And it takes a certain type of, fiber to be a watchman. Not everybody called to be a watchman. When you say that, Pastor?
Absolutely. And that's, and I will say this too, to piggyback or land back off of what you just stated. And this is where, as a whole, our people have to use spiritual fortitude and wisdom as well. Because, and I'm sure you had to deal with this as well, when you're addressing a sensitive topic to some, they would automatically, whether it's directly or indirectly, make comments of, why can't we just leave that alone? Why do we have to touch on that discussion? Or why we're trying to stir up the pot and things along that line. And this is not about throwing shots at anyone, but the divisive spirit that have been plaguing our community. So I would just say again, for those that are going to watch, please do not use or use languages that can kind of attempt to discourage us by saying, why do we have to touch on this? Why do we have to touch on that? Why don't we just let the Most High do what he's going to do when he comes back, when he returns? So to Pastor's point, we are, as a watchman, we are not taught that. The scripture never teaches that. So we have to sound the alarm. And it's up to you to make a decision whether or not you're going to accept it or reject it. When it's all said and done, you have to stand before the Father and give an account for you. He's not going to listen as an excuse of what others failed to do in warning you. He's going to hold you accountable for what you choose to do and not do. And from our perspective, Berean Scholars' perspective and my perspective, the office that we function in, we will be held accountable for what we say and not say. If we don't teach this, your blood is on our hand. But if we teach this and you choose to ignore it, then we did what we were called to do, and the blood is not on our hand.
Correct. In fact, that's just walking in the same footstep, in the same order as Yahawasha. Yahawasha, when he came, is the ultimate watchman. He came to shepherd this flock of Israel. And
Absolutely.
anything that came to that might look like a sheep, but we knew it was a wolf, it was up to him to make sure that it's taken care of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You hit it right on the nail. And that's why I want to just reiterate, family, this is not about individuals, certain people or anything like that, but just those that are embracing this doctrine that is really having an impact on our community. It sounds good early on until you have to deal with, or are you on the receiving end of having to address those that have been hurt by it. And our ministry had to address and help and witness and minister to a number of people that have been hurt by this, and I'm going to call it what it is, deceptive doctrine of the flesh.
Yes. Yes. And if you would notice some of the scriptures I have on the screen above, Proverbs 18 verse 22, when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing for his life. And also 1 Corinthians 6 verse 12, all things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not, and this is the good part, I would not be brought under the power of anything. If you read that scripture, he's talking about being brought under the power of the flesh. So let's get into it. We're going to talk about polygamy and mispronounce the other one.
I see polygamy. And you could actually add polyandry there too, because that's when a woman has multiple husbands.
Okay.
So that's all going to be impacted here.
And what the Bible says about it. Now, this is something that we know that there are mentioned in the scriptures. We know that the Torah itself does not condemn, but it does not promote. And we're going to see the areas where it's mentioned, what happened from it, things that came out of those situations. And one of the first ones that was cited is Lamech. Lamech is the offspring of Canaan. The first incident was cited in the Bible is Genesis 4:19. Lamech took it to him 2 wives, and they named the 2 wives. But even in that situation, the offspring was talking. It was some inspiration or a situation where there was conflict.
And real quick, Berean Scholar, I just want to add, or actually kind of give clarity. I'm going to show the people that it is condemned. And we'll get there, and that's going to be my part of the foundational portion of this lesson, is that it is condemned. It's condemned by the Messiah. It's condemned by Apostle Paul, and it's condemned in a key book. I could go into other books, but a key book, it is condemned, even though, anyway, I don't want to get ahead of it, but I just wanted to just kind of
misspoke. I thought I said that, but thank you for bringing clarity to that. Because if I did say that, thank you for bringing clarity. That's why you have somebody be there to check you. So we went to Lamech. And I'm going to fast forward. These are some areas because people like to say, well, there's in the scriptures. I saw it in the scriptures. And then in the next one, we know about Abraham. But Abraham's situation was different. Abraham's situation was the handmaiden of Sarah. And because Sarah heard the promise and she knew that she was of age and barren, she came up with the ideal to gave her handmaiden to Abraham. And we know all the conflict that came from that. When she saw the situation where Ishmael despised Isaac, and it was going to be a rift there, she had to go to Abraham, and Abraham told him to do what you have to do with your handmaiden. So we know about that.
And even then, it was Sarah that brought it to his attention.
Is
It was
that
Sarah that brought the wife. It was
Sarah,
not
not the Most High?
the Most High. It was Sarah that did everything. It was not the Most High leading her hand, and that's why the Most High has a great sense of humor when he told Abraham, "Listen to your wife," when he was looking for a solution to bring peace to his house. So basically, he was telling her, "Listen to your wife to get you in this mess. Listen to your wife to get out of
I
it."
like that because that's right. He gave her a word which she went around as well. I'm gonna have to figure a way out to make it come to pass, and that's not what we do. When Yah gives a word, Yah would complete His word. And Abraham himself, even in that situation, he didn't take any other wives. He didn't, and Abraham was the man with great wealth. And that's going to come into play later. He was a man of great wealth. We know what happened to Hagar. That was gone. And then he took another one after Sarah died. And that's Qatar. Qatar came in after Sarah died.
Absolutely.
We'll go back to next. Then we go to our father Jacob. Now, Jacob's situation, we know about him. He got hooked by his Laban. When he wanted Rachel, he got the older daughter Leah. They had to work 7 more years for Rachel, and both of them came with their handmaiden. And from these 4 women came the 12 tribes of Israel. But even if you read Genesis 27 to 28, you see all the conflict, all the things that came in that situation. And I believe the Most High made sure those things were put there so we'll see some of the conflicts. When you say so, Pastor?
Absolutely. And family, this is where I would say our maturity when it comes to approaching the text has to grow. When we're looking at and reading the scriptures, the Most High has given us a window into looking into the lives of our people during that time. And we get to see their strengths, their weaknesses, the things that they struggle with. But that's not for us to take that and use it as opportunity to justify our behaviors and what we do. So that's the approach we have to take with the text. And we tend to, I would say, gravitate to the negative stuff, but not really the positive stuff, like young people. Young people tend to, can I use this example real quick with my daughter?
Go for it. Go for it.
Just real quick. I'll use this as an example. My daughter, she was in private school. We had her in private school. And I remember suddenly her grades just dropped. I mean, she honor roll student and all, and suddenly her grades dropped. And not just hers, come to find out her friends, all of their grades dropped. And I'm like, well, what's going on? So, you know how you try to, ask questions and try to get to the root of it and still couldn't get anything. Well, I decided to pop up at her school and just kind of, watch the class, not from going into the class. I was, how you just look through the glass, but she don't know that I'm looking through the glass, just watching and observing. And I noticed how all the girls were catering to this one girl. So I decided to ask about that one girl. I said, hey, what's the grades of that one girl? She said her grades is, she's a straight A student. I said, and I noticed everyone is kind of catering to her. She said, yeah, she's popular and everyone, pretty much, like being around her, be cool with her. And she just seemed like she don't even do her work, but she always get straight A's. And I realized what the problem was. She, and I'm sure, you've probably done this or know people that have done it. I've done it. That's how I used to do it in school. I didn't want everyone to know that I'm, and I don't want to sound as conceited by saying this, but I didn't want everyone to know that I was a geek. So I'll do all my homework. I do everything the night before, and I'll do it ahead of schedule. All my work ahead of schedule. Then I'll, and I have it ready and turn it in. And it looked like I didn't study. Looked like I had no care in the world. but I'm acing the exams. So that's what they were doing. That's what she was doing, but they didn't see that portion of her. And I had to say to my daughter, I said, now I see what's going on. You guys are focusing on her bad habit. You want to be popular. You want to be connected to her, but you want to be connected to her bad habits, not the good things that she is doing. And so I had to break that down to her. So that's what we tend to do. And especially when I hear the arguments of polygamy and other things, because it's not just polygamy, but other behaviors, that's exactly what you have adults doing. So this is where I say again, we have to mature, we have to grow, change our approach with viewing the text. The Hebrew letter gamal means maturity, right? The numerical value is 3. This is why Apostle Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, when I was a child, I thought as a child, I spake as a child, I reasoned as a child. But when I became a man, I put aside childish things. So we have a lot of leaders that are still behaving and reasoning or making logic of the text from a child's perspective. I yield.
And that's the most important from a child perspective. So when they're not grown up, they're not eating the pure meat of the word, because they're not weighing everything against the whole word, not just the part they want to take out. Like you said, they pulling out what favor their flesh. But let's go on. Achan. Did I pronounce his name right?
Yeah, Achan or Achan, however you want to pronounce.
The father of Samuel. Now, if you read the story in 1 Samuel, how that relationship, the relationship between the two wives, was very, very, how you say, there was a lot of strife. In fact, Hannah, who at first thought she was barren and wanted to give her husband a son, was picked at, harassed by the other wife, Panana.
Yeah, well, that's how you said in the ancient Panaya in the text.
But Panana, she was very, very fertile, and she made sure she flaunted in front of her every time. And when Sarah found when Hannah finally had her child, we know the story how she donated, how she dedicated to the Most High. But that was a lot of conflict, and again, you see the man in the situation now, like he don't know what's going on, but he caused the conflict. Let's go. And of course, we always talk about King David. King David was a king, and the Most High gave him a wife when he first came into on the picture, and he gave him the wife of Saul, the daughter of Saul. Also, he was able to have more wives because he was a king. In fact, I think King David had up to, let's see,
eight wives.
8 wives. And I'll leave these up on the screen. You can then there's a scripture that shows you each one of them. But that was he had 7 wives, and that still wasn't enough because he had to get the 8th one. We know what happened to the 8th one, Bathsheba. And that was his downfall. In fact, that's one of the sins of the father was not dealt with. It carried on to Solomon. And what was Solomon's downfall? Wives.
Exactly.
In fact, Deuteronomy gave a restriction even for kings on excessive marriage. I'm trying to remember the actual verse. You
chapter
remember
17? Yeah, I'm gonna get to that anyway. So yeah,
okay.
But chapter 17
and
Deuteronomy chapter 17, he goes into the requirements of a king.
David knew it. We know Solomon knew because he was the most wisest man of all earth. But yet they gave into their flesh, and their family paid the price. And we go to Saul, who had 700 wives and 300 concubines, gave in to his flesh, and all that caused nothing but judgment, division, and he didn't prosper. In fact, he died away from the Most High. The wisdom that the Most High gave him and everything he gave him, he died because in a backsliding state. Am I right, Pastor?
Absolutely.
He went against the word of the Most High. And I'm gonna let you go first because we go to the law of things. I want to bring your screen up, okay?
Okay.
Say the laws for last. There we go.
Alrighty, and let me see here. Alrighty, let me adjust my mouse here. All right, there we go. All righty.
My pastor getting ready to ask for the moderators, make sure, because this is going to be a touchy subject, and make sure nobody's in the chat teaching anything else or getting off topic. We also make sure you like and share this, because our body need to hear this. And when I say our body, the whole family of Israel need to hear this, because we need to walk in the righteousness of the Most High. He's calling us back not to be in disorder, but to be in order. Go ahead.
Hallelujah. And family, as you see on your screen, you see the term or phrase "wife of thy youth," true covenant. That's the topic of this presentation, and just really wanted to break that down, because one thing that you will hear, as Berean Scholar pointed out, is that you will hear some would say that polygamy is accepted. The Most High never spoke against polygamy, and I'm going to prove to you that he did. So I can argue, not just argue, but prove it, whether we use the renewed covenant, the words of the Messiah, as well as the words of Apostle Paul, or if we just stayed within the law and the prophets. All right. And I'm going to show you here, starting with the prophets, how to really articulate this when you are in those spaces of brothers and sisters that are behaving in this spirit. I'm not even going to call it polygamy, because it's not even polygamy. All right. But especially the young women that's coming into this awakening, you guys are being confronted with this. I can assure you, just knowing how the patterns are with many of the predators that are lurking in this awakening. But anyway, the wife of thy youth, true covenant. And this is important for you guys to really make a note of this. Apostle Paul, and I'm going to start off with this. Apostle Paul gives a stern warning to Timothy about predators lurking among us. Excuse the typo. Let me say that again. Apostle Paul gives a stern warning to Timothy about predators lurking among us. These are not predators that's coming from other nations. These are predators from within. And I'm going to prove that here. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. All right. This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy. And when we look at this word perilous, let's see what it means. It says idea of reducing the strength, difficult, dangerous, fierce, hard to bear. And I think what's more accurate with what we're dealing with is, of course, fierce, but also hard to bear. Okay. So when we look at fierce from the Greek perspective, or the Hebrew perspective, excuse me, it means, in this azai, means harsh, fierce, but also we add greedy. That's part of that's a key word that we have to add to here. So make a note of the word greedy. So you have people that are harsh, fierce, but they're also what? Greedy. So make a note of that. So let's continue with verse 3 and 4. Without natural affection, truce breakers, because many will just go off of homosexuality when they see natural affection. It's not just natural affection, but being caught up in sexual perversions. There's a lot of sexual perversions that goes beyond just, homosexuality. All right. That's where we get into phallic worship. All right. Without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontent, fierce, despisers of those that are good. And I got proof that I had to walk this out. Am I right, Pastor?
Yes,
I think
sir.
you saw some of the videos on the channel, of the false accusations and the spisers who lines right up with this text. Verse 4, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of Yahawah. All right. So when we look at truce breakers, what is a truce breaker? We see here implicable truce breaker, but the key is covenant. And we see entry number 2 where it says that cannot be persuaded to enter into a covenant. So we have these truce breakers, these manipulative people who's convincing our people to not enter into a true covenant. And here we're dealing with the true covenant of marriage. And this is a deception that's prevalent among our community, right? In these spaces, rather, not just our community, other spaces. So when we look at the word false accuser from the Greek, this is what it says. Satan, Diablos, right? Satan, false accuser, devil, slanderer. Now, in Leviticus, I believe chapter 19, either 18 or 19, right? You'll see the word talebearer. All right. Someone that's a troll, basically. It's describing the troll. So let's go back to 2 Timothy real quick, verse 5 and 6. Having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. In other words, they're going to look like they know the word. They're going to look like they have the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of Yah. They're going to look like they in the path that is straight, but they're not. Denying the power thereof, from such turn away. That's the warning. From such turn away. For this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women. Now, when you see this word silly, this is young-minded women. And it's not just young-minded. When we think of young-minded, we'll think of like teenagers, young adults. But we're also talking about those that may be young in understanding the word, because many are being deceived by what? Those are that are not mature in the word. And so now they're being deceived because they don't have the proper discernment. So lead captive silly women laden with sins, led away with diverse lusts. And when you see here creep into houses, this is circumventing the authority, the person that's designated to be the redeemer, the revenger of the house. All right. And so when we see creep, right, and we're not dealing with TLC, it says to sink, sneak, creep. But look at here, to envelope, in. So this is a way of like a Trojan horse. What is the Trojan horse? Well, we already know what the Trojan horse. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but what are some of the things that we could consider to be a Trojan horse? You could be watching a YouTube channel, some teachings that seem to be innocent, and then in the midst of that teaching, they start what? Slowly but surely pushing perversions.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So silly, just to give clarity on it real quick. It says here, a little, in other words, foolish woman, right? Used contemptuously. All right. From the Hebrew school of thought, it says here, to open, roomy, to be simple or delude, silly, naive. You see where I'm going at with this, family? So being naive is not predicated to your age. Many of us came into this awakening being naive, thinking that, man, We dealt with so much inside the church spaces. So this is going to be much better because now everyone is getting into what? The Torah, going back to the law, statutes, and commandments. So we shouldn't have the slightest inclination that we're going to deal with the same things, if not worse. Am I right, Pastor?
That's right.
And I'm sure all of you guys had to deal with that. So when we look at the Oxford definition of the word silly, it says having or showing a lack of common sense or judgment, absurd and foolish. And it goes on to say 1.2, it says activity or process has been engaged, but nevertheless, into such a degree that someone is no longer capable of thinking or acting sensibly. Then we see here 1.3, helpless, defenseless, typically of a woman, child, or animal. All right. So taking advantage of those that may, like the scripture tells us, to protect the widows, the orphans, those that don't have a heritage. And, when you have a widow or someone that may have lost their husband through whatever tragedy, so they may not be, their discernment may not be as sharp as it would had they not been dealing with that type of situation. All right. So now let's, laying that out, let's go ahead and get into the lesson. All right. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 5 through 7. Let's start with another key thing here. For after this manner, in the old time, the holy women also who trusted in Yahweh adorned themselves, being in subjection to their own husband. So this is making it clear it wasn't just the men that was holy. Unfortunately, when we start dealing with the text, and Pastor Miller can confirm, you had a lot of male chauvinistic leaders.
Yep.
That had titles, that still have titles. In the Roman Catholic Church, it was a lot of male chauvinistic leaders. But it wasn't that way in our culture. All right. So it says, for after this manner, in the old time, in other words, ancient time, the holy women also who trusted in Yahweh adorned themselves, being in subjection to their what? Own husband. All right. Even as Sarah, look at the example, as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Adonai. I put Adonai here for a reason, because Adonai transliterates to the word Lord. But look at here. It says, whose daughters ye are, as long as ye do well, and are not afraid with any amazement. There's a reason why I didn't put master here. Now, I'm going to explain that real quick. Likewise, ye husbands, this is the key, ye husbands dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel. And notice this the word wife is singular. As unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together. It's not just a man, it's together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. So I want to make sure you guys understand, men, especially those that are married. And if you are engaging in this stuff and trying to figure out why your prayers are not being answered, it's because you're not honoring your wife. You're not treating her as an equal in your marriage. You can't expect your prayers to be answered if you're breaking the covenant. That's a reflection of the covenant. All right. So real quick, the word master. This is why I don't like this English transliterated word. Now we know it in the Greek kurios, by implication, Mr. as a respectful title, but they didn't use master. That's what I want to make sure we understand. In the Greek, it was kurios. In the ancient Hebrew, it's Adonai. But when we look at it into the English, right, we'll get to here in a second, but notice what we see here. This is the key. When we think of Adonai, think of superintendent of the household, the leader of the house. So the high priest is considered to be what? The leader of the temple. And in our homes as men, we're considered to be who? The superintendent of the house. And this is how Sarah acknowledged Abraham as being the superintendent of the house. Does that make sense, everyone? Is that pretty clear, Pastor Miller?
That's pretty clear. That's simple.
Okay. So the Hebrew word for master is also used as a salutation of respect as Mr. or Sir. So not this word master. Let me just break it down real quick. And you'll see the issue here that I have with this word. Now on the top surface, you'll see here a man having control or authority over a place, a teacher or tutor of children, chief, head, director, teacher. But when we start delving into this word, right, let's go further to it. Let's go to the verb, 12th century. So we're going further than what that noun that we read from. But the 12th century, to get the better of, prevail against, reduce to subjugation. And that's the spirit that so many men are operating in when it comes to our women.
Come on.
That's the right. Slave master right here. To get the better of, prevail against, reduce to subjugation. You was going to say something, Berean Scholar?
No, I'm just amen. That's exactly right.
So this is why I'm hesitant. I really don't like this word. And you have people in this awakening that's practicing, well, they're not even practicing polygamy, but under this delusion and spreading this witchcraft as if they are, this is their approach to women. Prevail against, reduce to subjugation. All right. So let's continue on. Wife of thy youth, the true covenant. And this is so key before we can even get to all of the examples that Berean Scholar presented here, right? Because this will shift. This will give you a more clearer, I would say a clearer understanding of the Father, understanding our position in terms of when it comes to understanding the structure of a household and why there's an assertive effort to attack it. And this is that spirit that's attacking it. That's attacking covenant. So we're in the scripture. And these are some of the questions that I've been asked, and I'm sure you guys heard this before. And I'm sure you probably heard this as well, Berean Scholar. If you guys heard these questions, type 1 inside the chat, or better yet, let's go to church up in here and just type in Aman. Type in AMAN or AHMAN. That's the primitive root. That's the true pronunciation of the word is Aman. If you agree with this question, or if you had not agreed with the question, if you was confronted with this question, where in the scriptures does Yahawasha says he hate polygamy? Have you guys asked? Was presented with that question? Okay.
Yeah, one eye, man. Let's put it up.
Show me where it's a sin to have multiple wives. And I'm going to use this phrase right here. Yet ye say, wherefore? So I see some responses here. I see Jerry Carroll, Aman in agreement, Daily Repentance in agreement, Mr. The Original School, Aman agrees. Rana Yah, Aman in agreement. So pretty much we're all in agreement. We've all heard this. Georgetta, let's see here. This is so clear understanding when I have read. Yeah, we're going, and I'm going to show you guys how you can change your entire approach. Not can, but should change your entire approach when you're dealing with this subject. And this is key. I want to show you the key passage that's going to shift everything. Shift everything. Am I right, Berean Scholar?
Everything. In fact, it's the foundation where you stand on.
Exactly. So this is why I say I don't even need to go into what is labeled today as the New Testament or the renewed covenant. I don't even have to deal with that. I could stay right in the law and the prophets. Here we go. Yet ye say, wherefore? Now, where did I get that from? I got it from here in a very contentious charge that Yahweh made on the Levites in Judah. The Levites, they were doing all kinds of crazy stuff, in the temple, as well as Judah. And we're not just dealing with the tribe of Judah, we're dealing with the Benjamites that was connected to Judah. So Torah foundations. Let's go to Malachi chapter 2, verse 11. This is what we're going to use here as a foundation here. This is family, make a note of this. If you really get this down in your spirit, you get a full understanding. I can tell you, you can apply this template to any argument. Any argument. Now it reads here. Let me make sure my mouse is good. My mouse has been acting up. All right. Judah, Yahawasha, have dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem. For Judah, Yahawasha hath profaned halal, the quadash, in other words, holiness of Yahweh, which he loved, and hath Baal, in other words, married Baal, the daughters of a Nakar, in other words, strange Allah. That's what you see inside the text. A strange deity. There's a lot to unpack here, family. So we're going to unpack it. Okay. For Judah hath profaned halal, the holiness, quadash of Yahweh, which he loved and hath married. So let's look at this word married real quick. In this text, we see the word Baal, right? One of the words, when we start connecting Baal, right, to Babal, confusion by what? Mixing. Baal means to be master, marry, be husband, okay? So the daughter, Bath, of a stranger, right? Nakar, a strange Ahlahayam, a strange Allah, rather. The daughter, Batha, is more of an accurate pronunciation. Bath, that's the shortening, taking the I off the end, but it'd be more accurate pronunciation would be Batha. But anyway, let's define strange, right? Nakar in the ancient Hebrew, but we see here foreign, right? A foreigner, heathendom, right? Strange, stranger, that which is foreign. Now, on the surface, well, matter of fact, I'm not even going to get into it. I'm just going to walk you guys through it. These men were divorcing their own Israelite wives. Let's make that clear. Against, and I want to break this down, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously. And when we deal with the word treacherously, by God, it says to cover, in other words, with a garment, to act covertly, to pillage, deal deceitfully. And we see treacherous dealer, treacherously, treacherous man, unfaithfully, unfaithful man. Now, family, you guys heard this all the time. I mean, a number of times. Covering. When you was in the church, that's all you heard. Especially if they find out you don't have a church home per se. Oh, that's you do right. Not need to be wandering. Every person needs a covering. That's what you're hearing, even with this so-called spirit of polygamy, right? You're hearing covering. All right. And that's how many are being seduced with covering. They're using what's going on around us in this, in the world today of, the uncertainty and saying, hey, you need a covering. I can protect you. I can bring security to you as a form of salvation. So let's continue to break this down. So treacherous, right? By God in Hebrew means to deal deceitfully, unfaithful, offend. So the men of Israel were guilty of unfaithfulness to their wives. Let's break this down. They were committing adultery and they married women who worship strange deities. Two things here, right? And we're going to break this down here. They were committing adultery. They were marrying women who were worshiping strange deities. But also, to add a third thing, they were adding an adversary into their household. And we'll get to the adversary later. All right? And that's going back to what Berean Scholar mentioned earlier with the story of Samuel parents, Elkanah, in Chana, bringing in Panana. She was called an adversary in the ancient text, not a wife. So through the eyes of Yahweh, how many wives did Jacob marry? That's a good question, right? In the eyes of Yahweh, how many wives did Jacob marry? How many wives did Jacob have? And I know you guys like, wait a minute, Pastor, is that a trick question? Oh, yeah, it's not. I'm not trying to trick you, but I want you to think about it. And I'm going to answer that question with this passage. Who is the wife of thy youth? So in order to answer that question, you have to understand wife of his youth or the wife of thy youth. Who is the wife of Jacob's youth? Oh, let's break this down, family. Which one worshiped a strange deity? You see what I'm going at, family? See, I'm removing any type of potential. Some would try to use a distraction, so to speak, or insert any narratives here by saying when you see strange, it's just referring to someone of another culture, someone that's not a Hebrew Israelite woman. But we have sisters here. They were Hebrews, right? Because they're related to Sarah, and Sarah was a Hebrew. But the key here, they both were sisters, Leah and Rachel. Which one is considered the wife and which one worship a strange deity? Oh, that's deep, right? So let's go back to Malachi chapter 2 and continue with verse 14. Let's break this down. Yet ye say, wherefore? See, family, this is not a peaceful, calm conversation here. This is very contentious. Am I right, Berean Scholar?
Yep.
So when you see here, yet ye say, wherefore, this is the priests, this is leaders within Judah, this is all of them trying to push back at him as he's calling them out. Yet ye say, wherefore? Because Yahweh hath been witness between thee and the wife Ashath of thy youth, Na'awar. Now, family, but it's singular, but we'll get there in a second. So this phrase, wife of thy youth, Ashath, Na'awar, that's the phrase, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously by God, yet is she thy companion and the wife, Ashath, of thy covenant, Barayah. That's this right here, family. This is a mic drop right here. But I'm going to show you why this is a mic drop, because I'm going to add to it. But the key here is witness. Adath. All right, let's continue. So because Yahweh hath been witness, ayad, in this particular text is ayad, but it comes from the primitive root word adath, between thee and thy wife of thy youth. So when you see witness from a Hebraic school of thought, it means recorder, right? And we already know the purpose of having a recorder, right? Especially you guys that grew up in the 70s and the 80s, like Berean Scholar and myself, especially when you had to listen to those mixes, right? You had your tape recorder, right? The 70s, 80s, and I would say the early 90s. You had that tape recorder to do what? Record, right? You wanted to catch everything from a video
at the right time.
Exactly. So the key to recording, right? It's not just to record just to have, but it's for you to what? Playback. So a good witness is a good recording. And you'll confirm it through what? The playback. All right. So because Yahweh hath been witness between thee and the wife Ashath of thy youth, Na'awar, what is the wife of thy youth? We're back at that question.
Come on.
This means that this woman is not just a spouse, but she is a covenant partner. She's in covenant with her husband. In ancient Hebrew culture and thought, marriage equals what? Covenant. Today, we don't look at it that way. Because if we keep reducing things down, when you hear people reduce it down to, we don't need that piece of paper, they don't understand covenant. We'll get there here in a second. Yahweh is the witness. He is the witness, the recorder of the union between the man and woman coming together to form one, in other words, mirroring Israel's covenant with him. Let me say that again. Yahweh is the witness. He is the recorder. And he's what? Giving the playback, right? Of the union between the man and woman coming together to form one, mirroring Israel's covenant with him, Barayath. So to abandon her is to abandon covenant faithfulness. The wife of thy youth, Ashath. Now, R is symbolically the original, legitimate covenant partner. Does that make sense, everyone? When you see that term or that phrase, wife of thy youth, that's the wife that the Most High recognizes. That is the covenant partner. Oh, we're going to break this down. Does wife of thy youth means that Yahweh accepts polygamy as long as the women are Israelites? Whoa, that's a good question, right?
Oh, now.
Oh, now, I'm not stuck here, but those that may be looking for some way to justify that behavior may think that I'm in this tough pickle here. But here I'm going to tell you it doesn't. Right? It's not just saying, hey, as long as it's a Hebrew Israelite, then they're good. Look at here. Yet is she thy companion, Kabarath or Kabara, and the wife, Ashath, of thy covenant, Barayath. Oh man, that is powerful here. Look at here. Wife, Ashath, of thy youth, Na'ar, and wife of your covenant are not generic descriptors. They are legal covenantal terms. Let me say that again. The wife of thy youth is not based on DNA. It's not based on bloodline. It is based on that true wife, that true covenantal wife that the Most High recognizes.
Come on.
Not just the families of both the groom and bride was witnesses to this marriage, but it's Yahweh to the couple's marriage vows. Right? Let me say that again. Not just the families of both the groom and bride was witnesses to the couple's marriage vows, but it's Yahweh. Let's break this down. Family. The word witness, ayad or ayada, right, refers to the fact that Yahweh is all-knowing and sees everything a person does, including every vow a person makes and breaks. So Yahweh is not saying one of your wives, right? That's not what he's saying. He's not saying that in his text. He is identifying the covenantal marriage he witnessed and joined from the very beginning, like Adam and Eve. Right? And that's the template that when we see wife of thy youth and when he deal with covenant, he is what? Bringing us back to the template of what he intended for marriage to be from the very beginning. Right? Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. Therefore shall man, Ayash, leave his Abayah father and his Amah mother, and shall cleave unto his Ashath wife, and they shall be Akkad, in other words, one flesh, Bashar. So this points back to a man shall cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. That is the only marriage Yahweh personally created in the scriptures.
Come on.
Everything else that appears later is regulated, tolerated but it's corrected as well. Judged, but guess what? He never created polygamy, but never created polygamy. Yahweh never created that. So does wife of your youth means first wife only? The answer is yes, but not simply chronologically. Let's break this down real quick. Does wife of thy youth mean first wife only? Guess what? Absolutely. It means the original covenant union, the marriage formed according to the divine pattern, the wife joined before compromise, culture, power, or hardness of the heart. So that is why Malachi says Yahweh was a witness to that marriage. So is Malachi allowing polygamy if the Hebrew women are Hebrew? As I stated, absolutely not. No, in fact, the text does the opposite. Let me prove that. If polygamy were acceptable as long as the woman were Hebrew, then the wife of your youth would be meaningless. Wife of your covenant would be plural. And did he not make them one would be contradictions in argument. It would be a contradiction. So Malachi explicitly says, did he not make them one? That brings it all the way back to where? The very beginning.
Exactly.
That's what Malachi said, right, family? He said, did he not make you one? Did he not make them one? He's referring to not Abraham, not Jacob, because Isaac only had one wife. Not any examples outside of the very first marriage. That's what it said. Did he not make them one? He's referring to Adam and Eve, taking
Genesis
it all
2.
the way back to the beginning. You're going to say something, Berean
That's
Scholar?
right. Genesis 2.
So this is a Genesis original template appeal, not a cultural one. Because this law of marriage predates Abraham, predates Isaac, predates Jacob, predates Israel. So despite Yahweh being, excuse the typo here, despite Yahweh being the ultimate witness, the men of Israel were directly breaking the covenant they had established with the wife of their youth. So let's go back here. Malachi, right? We want to go to verse 15 and 16. Look, family, I didn't even get to the other stuff yet. But we got to lay this foundation. Am I right, Berean?
Yeah.
Scholar. We're laying the foundation. All right? This trumps all of the other arguments that you have heard of people trying to justify it. Look at here. This the reset, making sure it gets all the way back to the beginning. And did he not make Akkad one? Yet had he the residue of the spirit, and wherefore Akkad one, that he might seek a godly seed. Therefore, take heed, shamar, to your spirit, and let none deal treacherously against the wife of his youth, Ashath Na'ar. Verse 16. For Yahweh Ahlahayam of Israel saith, he hateth, oh my goodness, he hateth Shana or Shana'ah, putting away Shalak. For one covereth Kasa, violence, Samak, with his garment. In other words, they're trying to cover up their brutalities, trying to mask it. You see what it's saying here, family? They're trying to mask their behaviors. They may mask it with a garment of doctrines that they created. Doctrines of organizations that they are part of. Doctrines of what they think, what they want, and how they feel. Doctrines of deception. Therefore, take heed, shamar. In other words, this is, when you see shamar, this means execute. Not just take heed, but execute to your spirit, rawak, that ye deal not treacherously. So Ahlahayam of Israel saith he hateth. Let's see what he hateth means here. It says here, enemy, right? That's key. Enemy, foe. So the Most High is telling Israel, when you deal treacherously with your wife, you become an enemy to him because you're breaking the covenant. And as we taught it Shabbat, when you break the laws of the curses in Deuteronomy 27 and you break that covenant, guess what? You're no longer viewed as being sanctified. You no longer is being viewed as being holy, quadash. You're no longer being viewed as being set apart. You're being viewed just like the other nations. So that's where the judgment come into play. All right. So this is an interesting word here, right? In ancient Hebrew, nashayam. In the Israeli, nashim. Look at what it says. It says a woman, female, wife, woman. So what is this? What does this tell us, family? This can be used singular or it can be used plural. Make a note of this. Make a note of this. All right. So what are some of the arguments many are using to promote polygamy? So again, we're going to get back to Malachi 2 as being that template, because we're going to have a test here to see if that really truly applies to every marriage that we see with a man with multiple wives. There's a woman that had multiple husbands. So what are some of the arguments many are using to promote polygamy? Let's go to New York Times. This is an old article, January 20th, 2012. Let's see if you guys, if this sounds familiar. A definite shortage of marriageable black men. And I'm going to say to the women that's watching this, don't get caught up in this thought because it's witchcraft.
Come on, say it again.
Don't get caught up with this thought. It is witchcraft. The Most High, if that's in his will for you to be married, whether it's be married again or not, that's his will. Has nothing to do with statistics. But what is his will that he has for you in your life? Maybe he's saying not right now for you. Again, not everyone in the scriptures that followed the Most High was married. So New York Times, January 20th, 2012, a definite shortage of marriageable men, or black men, to be more specific. Look at what it says here. More than 1 in 10 black men in their 20s or early 30s are currently incarcerated. And some experts estimate that as many as 1 in 4 black men will spend some time behind bars. Only half of black boys graduate high school. Unemployment, incarceration, and lack of education shape people and undermine the qualities that women seek in a spouse. Some ex-convicts or high school dropouts find good jobs, but most do not. Black men without a college education, like less educated men of all races, confront an employment landscape in which the well-paying, labor-intensive jobs on which earlier generations of men relied have either been eliminated by technology or moved overseas. And I'm going to tell you, this is completely incorrect. Bill Gates was a dropout. Mark Zuckerberg didn't even last 1 year of college. And let me leave that alone. The harsh truth is that as black women have moved ahead, black men have fallen behind. Each year, nearly twice as many black women as men graduate college. Black women have surpassed their male counterparts, even in lucrative and typically male-dominated fields like computer science. Twice as many black women as compounding the numbers, problem is that black men marry interracially more than twice as frequently as do black women. So it's saying that another reason that they're saying here is because men within our community will marry outside our community, other nations, right? More than 1 in 5 black men now marry a non-black spouse, compared to fewer than 1 in 10 women who do so. All right. Here's another article: Pan-African Alliance, 5 reasons why black polygamy is trending today. And I'm here to tell you, it is not polygamy. It is not polygamy. Black polygamy has been low-key trending for decades. It's no secret that there is a disproportionate number of black men in prison in the West. Notice how they keep throwing that prison thing. See the deception here? They keep throwing this deception here. I'm here to tell you, before we continue, polygamy is illegal in this country. Not a single person call themselves practicing polygamy have multiple marriage licenses. If they did, they'll be locked up.
Exactly. We'll show them that later.
So black polygamy has been low-key trending for decades. It's no secret that there is a disproportionate number of black men in prison in the West. Combine that with an oppressive system of welfare and imbalances in the earning power of black women, and you have a recipe for dysfunctional black family units. In the wake of the new Jim Crow in the welfare system in the West and economic instability elsewhere, polygamy has become a trending topic as a way to restore the black family. In other words, a form of a messiah. Many are using financial security as an argument to support polygamy, right? Let's go to Isaiah chapter 4, verse 1. And this is going to put things into proper perspective. And we're going to give clarity on this passage here. Now, I just read to you that it said that the women, according to these articles I've made reference to, their income are higher than men. They're the higher income earners. So how is this going to bring about financial stability to them in a polygamous relationship? Many of these guys that's supposedly in their minds practicing polygamy, I'm going to say they're not, are home. Most of them not even working. Depending on the women, kind of like baby boy, driving their car.
Yep.
In their home. She paying everything. So let's break this down real quick. Isaiah 4:1. And in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. Now tell me, does this sound complimentary? This is saying that the women are saying, we don't need nothing from you. We just want the security of having the title of being married because these streets are dangerous. The time is dangerous. But they're saying they don't need anything. But let's break this down real quick. In order to fully understand Isaiah 4, chapter 4, verse 1, we have to first understand what is called the day of the Lord, day of Yahweh. You'll see transliterated to day of the Lord in the scriptures, but day of Yahweh. What is the day of Yahweh? Well, let's start with Isaiah chapter 2, verse 11 and 12. It reads, the lofty looks of man shall be humbled, and the haughtiness of men. See, when we get to Isaiah 3, because Isaiah 4:1 is a continuation of Isaiah 3 dealing with who? The haughty women. So from the haughty women, there has to be a source, right? There's an origin to them. Look at here. We see here the haughty who? The haughtiness of who? Men. The haughtiness of fathers. We don't hear that part when many talking about the haughty women. We just hear the haughty women, but we don't look at the source. So the lofty looks of man shall be humbled, and the haughtiness of men shall be bowed down. And Yahweh alone shall be exalted in that day. Verse 12, for the day of Yahweh of hosts shall be upon everyone that is proud and lofty, and upon everyone that is lifted up, and he shall be brought low. So Israel chose to follow the world of the occult and sorcery, right? So they practiced the superstitions of the East, their religions, their magics, and formed forms of meditation and relaxation. So they was really getting caught up in what? Following the ways of the other nations, right? So Israel began to practice divination and sorcery of the West. The men of Judah began to indulge in sexual perversions, including homosexuality. You can see that in chapter 1, and also as we carry over to chapter 2. So when we go to Isaiah chapter 3, again, verse 8, look at this here. For Jerusalem, Yarashalam is in ruin, and Judah is falling because their tongue and their doings, their speech, their words, and what their actions are against Yahweh to provoke his eyes of his glory. They shew of their countenance doeth witness against them, and they declare their sins as what? Sodom. You guys see where I'm getting at, right? They started indulging in all kinds of sexual perversions, including homosexuality. They hide it not. Woe unto their soul, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. So the day of Yahweh is the time where Yahweh will judge and punish Israel. Isaiah 4:1 is part of the day of Yahweh, right? Isaiah 4:1 is a continuation of Isaiah chapter 3, verse 16 through 26, when it deals with the haughty women. All right. Is that clear, everyone? If that's clear, if that makes sense, type
you
1.
You get a lot of amens in the chat, brother. You got a lot of amens in the chat.
All right. Okay,
That's
great,
clear.
great. So let's give the key to understanding and reading scriptures. Berean Scholar knows this. It's some things that these are the things that we're taught when you take classes like biblical hermeneutics, right? Here's the key to understanding and reading scriptures. There were no chapters, there were no verses in the original manuscripts. Why is this important? I'm going to explain to you guys in a second. I'll give you an example of it. Stephen Langton in the 12th century, he was a cardinal, Stephen Langton, the medieval archbishop of Canterbury, died in 1228 AD. He is the one that added or came up with the idea of adding chapter divisions in the scriptures, in the Bible. He is the one that came up with the chapters. Prior to that, there was no chapters. All right. Robert Estein, in 1551 added verse divisions to his fourth edition of the Greek New Testament while en route between Paris and Lyons, France. All right. So this is key to understanding this. So these added bookmarks were not based on any scientific equation or mathematic equation. This is why when you're reading certain passages, I'm sure you guys been there before, you're reading a chapter that seems like it starts off with in the middle of a thought. That's why when you understand biblical hermeneutics, one of the formulas to making sure you get the accuracy of the text is you read the chapter before it and the chapter that's after it. Some cases, you're going to have to go 3 and 4 chapters before the main text. Like when you're dealing with Ezekiel chapter 37, right? What leads up to chapter 37, you have to go all the way back to chapter 33. All right. So Again, these added bookmarks were not based on any scientific or mathematical equation. This is why some chapters begin with continuing points from the previous chapter, right? And here's an example of that. Let's go to Genesis chapter 2, verse 1 through 3. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, Ahlahayam ended his work, which he had made, and he rested, in other words, Shabbat, on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. Verse 3, and Ahlahayam blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had Shabbat from all his work which Ahlahayam created and made. Right? So why is this important? Verse 4, it says here, these are the generations of the heavens. So these are two different thoughts here, right? These three verses that I read is a continuation of chapter 1. Because in chapter 1, you see 6 days of creation. Here we see what occurred on the seventh day. So this is a continuation of chapter 1. These three passages connects to chapter 1. The actual chapter, if we want to break it into chapters, should start at verse 4. These are the generations of the heavens. Just like when we see chapter 5, it begins with, these are the generations of Adam. All right. So these verses is a continuation of chapter 1, as I pointed out. So going back to Isaiah, right? We started at Isaiah 4 and 1, but let's start at Isaiah chapter 3, verse 16. I'm not going to read all the text that precedes it, but I want to make sure you guys understand the hardy woman, right? And how it ties into chapter 4, verse 1. Moreover, Yahawasha saith, because the daughters of Zion are gabah, in other words, hardy, and walk with stretched natah, right? Just sound like our people, right? Forth necks, garawan, and wanton eyes, shakar, walking and mincing, in other words, tapap, as they go making a tinkling, akas, with their feet. Doesn't that sound familiar?
Yep.
Doesn't that sound familiar? So the daughters of Zion are hardy. You see the word gabah. Let's break down gabah real quick. Hardy, gabah, means to soar, lift up, mount up, be proud. These women are the daughters of Jerusalem, right? They were hypocrites, according to the scriptures. They were guilty of pride and arrogance, right? These hardy daughters walk, Yawan, with stretched natah, forth necks, garawan, and wanton eyes. So let's break this down real quick. Wonton, shakwar, means to blink, coeditously, and coedish means flirtatious. Does that make sense, family? All right, and I'm going to give you an example of this. I got a couple of pictures here. Doesn't that look familiar? That is an example of wanton eyes. All right. So as they walk about, they also flirted with men, using their eyes to draw the attention of men, right? They crave to be recognized as attractive and desire in the eyes of men. Are we not seeing that today like never before? Walking and mincing as they go, right? Think about many of the profiles of many of the women. The neck is stretched out, right? Head over to the side in their profile. You know what I'm talking about, Berean?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? So mincing, tapop, tapop means tripping. Are they not tripping over? And we can say it in the literal.
I go say they tripping.
We can say it in the figurative.
Yeah, they're tripping.
Are they tripping? Yeah, many of these women are tripping over these knuckleheads. All right. These women were tripping over the few men that were available, right? These women were tripping and stumbling as they desperately sought attention from men. That's what That's what it's describing here in this passage. And we're going to carry it over to chapter 4. These women made a tinkling with their feet. Are we not seeing shoes like that with how they the heels, and we could call it the triangles, standing on their triangles, right? And having all kinds of bracelets and things, ankle bracelets and all kinds of things to what? Show off their legs. Here's a little geek mode nugget here. That's why they designed tables the way they designed it. Dining tables and all.
Exactly.
To make them look like women legs. To make it so that way it's attracted to the men to allow their wives, their wife rather, to purchase it. Anyway, so tinkling means to tie, specifically with fetters, to put on ankles, making a tinkling ornament, right? So when we look at fetter, let's see what fetter means. It says here, a chain or manacle used to restrain a prisoner, typically placed around the ankle. So here it is. These designs, these decorations you put on your ankle, many are putting on their ankle. It's really what? Restraining them. It's placing them into a type of spiritual prisoner. Is that deep or what? So tinkling with their feet means that these women are willing to voluntarily go into bondage for the sake of attention.
And
right? Going back to Isaiah 4:1.
And how much has changed?
Exactly. So
we even have we even have a sister here said that this verse was where her mother knew that we were the people when she read this verse. Let us describe our people.
Yeah. Is it describing us to a T?
Come on, keep going, brother.
So and now we read the hardy woman, how this still is a connection to the hardy woman. Now these hardy women is saying, in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name and take away our approach. Does this sound like they need financial stability? Does this sound like they need food? Does this sound like they need a man to clothe them? Doesn't it sound like Miss Independent, like Neo hit song that he had years ago? Doesn't it sound like independent women, right?
Exactly.
But they're saying we don't need nothing from you. Doesn't that sound like a lot of the women today? A lot of women today is saying, hey, they're telling men straight up, we don't even need nothing from you. I just want a baby by you. All right. I know I went a little. All right. Let me.
No. They make it plain. Make it plain. So because this is the traps we've fallen into.
Exactly. So here it says, here the thought here, still explaining this verse. This verse describes social collapse, loss of men, and desperation, not a covenant order. These hardy women are clear that they do not need anything. They don't need finances from a man, but what? Their name, the security of just the title of marriage, right? Due to the shortage of men, these women are desperately seeking to the security of protection through marriage. Nothing in Isaiah 4:1 commands marriage, sanctifies sexual arrangements, institutes polygamy, and provides cleansing. It simply describes reproach, right? So let's go to 4 and 5 of Isaiah 4, because I want to make sure we have clarity here, because some will go here and think that this is part of the polygamy is going to be part of the purification process. Look here, it says, when Yahawasha shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion. So we saw that there's nothing complimentary about verse 1, and it's a continuation of the hardy women. So that's part of the what? Filth. That's going to be what? Cleansed from the mindset of our people. That in itself verse 4 and 5 shuts down the poor understanding of this text. When Yahweh shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst, in other words, middle, their heart, therefore, by the spirit of judgment and by the spirit of burning. And Yahweh will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion and upon her assemblies a cloud, smoke by day. In other words, he's going to give what? He's going to lead us. That's what this is saying. That Israel were led by what? The cloud of smoke by day, as this is saying here, and by the flame of fire at night. That's when they knew where to what? Settle in. So what is this telling every person that's watching it? The Most High has the answer. You move when he moves. Just like that. Doesn't that sound familiar? Hey, when not trying to get into a little what's his name, the hip hop artist, I can't remember his name now, Ludacris.
Yeah, I can remember his name either.
So, in the shining of a flaming fire by night, for upon all the glory, kabod shall be a defense. Okay, so Yahweh shall wash. Excuse me, for the typo here. Yahweh shall have washed away the filth. All right. So what is the filth? I gave you the answer. The practice of polygamy, or the desire for it in Isaiah 4:1, is not the remedy for the filth. It is part of the filth and a symptom of covenant collapse. Come on, family. It's just that simple. Isaiah defines the filth in Isaiah 3, verse 16 through 26, which are the pride and haughtiness, sexual arrogance, and self-exaltation, misuse of adornment and status, and rebellion against the covenant. And then when we get to chapter 4, now you see it all come to pass.
Yep.
That's the height of it, that they don't respect covenant at all.
And covenant is the key. Covenant is
Exactly.
what it's all about. And let me interject right quick, Pastor. I need to give some shout outs to As My Soul Prospers, and thank you for the super chat. I want everybody to make sure you can show her some love. As My Soul Prospers. Also, Sister Carol, Jerry Carroll, thank you for the super chat, and show them love. And for all those who are sharing, clicking the like button, thank you guys for participating, because this is teaching you don't get anywhere else. This is teaching that we didn't get when we're in the church, and now we got people who are waking up. We're spotlighting all the people around the world who are waking up, and they're walking into these traps where people are using these misteachings to trap our women, and some, like Pastor said, some women doing the same thing. So,
yeah, and that's the sad thing. Some of the things that the things that I've witnessed in this awakening, man, it's unbelievable. So that's why we're doing this lesson, to really make you guys aware of what's going on. All right, to sharpen your discernment. So this is moral disorder, not a lack of husbands. Let me say that again. The issue is their spirit, their warped understanding, their perversion, right? Their disorder. They don't morally. When we deal with moral, the covenant is the foundation to understanding what's moral.
It's the foundation.
Not a lack, and it says, and really, it's not a lack of husbands. It's their temperament in approaching situations. All right. So Isaiah 4 does not justify polygamy. It exposes it as evidence of a covenant breakdown. So let's get back to this thought. Wife of thy youth, true covenant. Man, did we give a lot in that? You know what I mean? It's a lot, but this foundational, family, this sets the tone.
Now, I did get this from your teaching you did, because I want to point people to the We Woke Now page. Pastor Keller had done several teaching on this subject, and I'm gonna show just a little clip of it, Pastor.
Okay.
Can you hear it?
Yep.
What your fruit that you're bearing, like it was just, my mind was just so messed up. And I was telling my master, I actually had a dream. So after it was brought to my attention that my master was interested in me, it didn't register in my mind until
everybody knew it straightway that I was looking for a virgin. And what Yah was doing with me was, and the one that was looking right before her, she was a virgin, but I will say this much, she had a hard time being accepting the fact that she was going to be submitted to me, if that's a lack of a better word. Right. I'll give you an example. And this is just a test. But I remember saying, if I told you to go hug a tree, would you go hug a tree? And I don't even know how I came up with that test. She said, well, why do I have to hug a tree? That just seems so demeaning.
Bark like a dog. A big dog.
Woof, 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 woof.
Woof. Hop on one leg.
Woof, 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 woof.
Make a noise like an orangutan.
Ah, I see the two of you are getting along.
On the entrance, as my master said, he wanted to come out first.
I was married for 16 years to a woman that I met in college. We had 8 children, 7 boys, 1 girl. I've only knew of my 7 children. I never met my last child. I still have not met my last son. When I started looking, and I was looking for a virgin at that time. To be honest, I was actually. I made it very known that I was looking for a virgin. I wanted to be with a virgin because I just thought that, I can make this woman my own and create her into my own image. In our ministry, we know how we about polygyny. Now, everybody knows that my goal is to have 94 children. If you don't know that, now you know. Listen to this. How many people came to the wedding of your family? 0. Wow. But you're wrong. But listen to this. She goes, I'm her master. She's my property.
She's now, it calls me master. She's my property.
Man, family. And you guys heard why I don't like that word master. And our brothers and sisters are doing, I would just say, worse than what the oppressors, because that's what we expect them to do. But not our own brothers and sisters. And that guy is a former NFL linebacker, played with the Green Bay Packers. Got a young girl at that time. She couldn't have been no more than about 21, 22 years old. See, many of these guys target those young girls so they can mold them in their mind. As he said he wanted to have 90 plus kids. That's all flesh. That is all flesh. Believe it or not, a lot of these athletes are living with multiple women. They're doing this. It's the norm among them. So it just, when I saw that, I haven't seen the clip in a while. It just really makes my heart just, man, it just pains. Because can you imagine? He said that none of her family showed up, and you can see why. They were trying to warn her. Make me think about the story of the Levi, the crooked Levitical priest who married a concubine wife, and he treated her badly. She left him. So then she went to go get her back. And her father was doing everything to try to keep them to stay. And he was pressing to leave. Only to that be the last time he see his father, or she see her father.
You know, I should have let it play a little bit longer because there was a clip you had a testimony clip after that. When we show that one.
Yeah, let's show that one. Then we'll continue. And let me just say this, family. I did a number of interviews of people that was being abused in the system. So this interview is me manipulating the voice so the people couldn't make out who she is. And I'm not even going to tell you what group she part of and some of the others, but I manipulated the voice so that way you couldn't make out who she is and the individual is. And I put a different video overlay over it so that way no one can make her out. And some of the others that you probably saw some of the testaments in that video. But go ahead, Pastor. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Just wanted to make that clear to the people.
Let me see.
That their prayers will be hindered if they don't go through their husband. They have to go through their husband in order for their prayers to be addressed by the Most High God. So if they are praying, they are told your prayers are in vain, that they don't mean anything. They're just empty words. So when you're praying to nothing. It's like you're praying to air. So why even bother? Go to your master. And once you go to your master, which would be your husband, and he agrees with, you praying, then the Most High will hear your prayers. And this is what some of the women are being told, that if you pray without his permission, so your prayers won't be heard. And you have to address him when you do pray. The prayer would be, I'd be praying to my master, which would be, of course, the husband.
Let's pause it right there. And family, this is what they're doing. So many of them are doing this, telling the women that they cannot pray to the Father unless it's in the name of their so-called master. They're literally doing trafficking, selling women. I even have, I'm not sure if you saw it there, Berean Scholar, the auction.
Yeah.
Auctioning women, literally having an auction.
Let me see.
Had a couple of football players on the panel. They're auctioning girls, trying to match them up with 50 and 60-year-old men.
Selling the right to take on these young ladies.
Yeah.
And this is, and I see in the chat, not our people, yet this is our people.
This is our people.
Just like the scripture said, those who are among you, beware those who are among you. Go ahead, Pastor. Go ahead, continue. I just think they needed it. All the word you give, they need to see that this is what's happening. These deception, these teaching is seeping into the awakening, and people are taking advantage of people. And you need to know this is not of Yah.
Absolutely. Man. So going back here to Malachi chapter 2, verse 14. Yet ye say, wherefore? Because Yahweh hath been witness between thee and the wife, Ashath, and thy youth. In other words, wife of thy youth, Na'awar, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously, yet is she thy companion, and the wife Ashath of thy covenant, Barayath. So the wife of your youth is not introducing a new idea, but taking marriage back to the true covenantal reality that was created from the very beginning. Malachi 2 does not say one of your wives. Again, it does not say a later covenant, and it does not say or replacement, or replacement covenant, excuse me. It says the wife of your youth, the wife of your covenant. Did he not make them what? One.
Come on.
That seals the deal right there. That's taking it all the way back to the beginning. So what is the marriage template? What is the marriage covenant? What is the template that we are given? Right? Let me say that again. What is the marriage covenant template that was given to us from the beginning? You guys already know it, but let's give scripture. Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. Look at what it says. Therefore shall man Ayash leave his father Abayah and his mother Amah, and shall cleave unto his wife Ashath, and they shall be Akkad, in other words, one flesh, Bashar. So when we see man, that's singular, leaving his father, leaving his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, singular. And they, right, these two individuals shall be what? Come one. Akkad, flesh. One covenant. One flesh, one covenant. So Genesis 2 and 2 is not just about marriage. It is a covenant pattern that's defined as one source, one union, one flesh, one continuity, one household. Nothing in Genesis ever records Yahweh creating a second covenant, a replacement covenant, and a competing covenant. And you guys, and maybe one day we'll do a lesson on it, when I go through and I show how the covenant was created in the beginning, the created covenant given to Adam, and from that point down the line is now being handed down to the next generation. It's being stabilized. This is where you get the word establish. Establish means to make stable. So it goes from Adam. Then we see the next, we see the entry of the text. It goes to Noah. And then from Noah, we know Shem. From Shem to Abraham. From Abraham to, of course, through Isaac to Jacob. We can't get away from that. Israel. But it's always what? One covenant.
One.
So I don't roll with this so-called Noahide covenant, the Abrahamic covenant. You know, this is what religion has done, and these other groups have done. They mastered the labeling.
Yeah.
Creating labels and then backdating those terms, and then try to align the ancient texts with their modern constructs. So nothing in Genesis ever records Yahweh creating a second covenant. And I'll go rock him on some, you guys. If you got more, I'll wait. But don't make me wait too long. Prove it. A replacement covenant and a competing covenant. So what is the covenant marriage template? Yahawasha, what did he use? We have it right here. Matthew chapter 19, verse 3 and 6. And let's see what he says. Right? So Malachi chapter 2 is for those that say that they non-messianic. So that shuts down that whole argument. But for those that say that they believe in the Messiah, they teach out of the renewed covenant, which is labeled today as the New Testament. This shuts down any logic of reasoning, those that's trying to make it say something that it doesn't. The Pharisees also came unto him, tempting him, and saying unto him, is it lawful for Adam, in other words, man, to shalak, in other words, put away his wife Ashath for every cause? And he answered and said unto them, have ye not read? Come on, family. We need to do more reading, right? He's dealing with Pharisees. And he said to these Pharisees, have ye not read that which made them at the what? Beginning. Made them male, Zakar, and female, Nakwaba. And said, for this cause shall Adam, man, leave father and mother, Amah, father, Abayah, mother, Amah, and shall cleave to his wife, and they, right, twain, Shanayah, shall be Akkad, one flesh.
Come on now.
Wherefore, they are no more twain, divided to Shanayah, but Akkad, in other words, one, together, one flesh. What therefore Yahweh hath joined together, let no man put asunder. So this is still bearing witness that Yahweh is the witness. All right. So why did Moses write the letter of divorce and Yahweh tolerated the letter? Well, Christ answers this question. I could go into Deuteronomy, but then, for the sake of time, I didn't want to bring all of that here. But they said to him, why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement and to put her away? And he, Yahawasha, said unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffered you to put away your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. So it's saying the Most High, and this is why I use the term situational exception, because the men was being brutal to their wife. If she couldn't produce a son, they were doing all kinds of shiesty things, even lying on her, trying to say that she wasn't a virgin. So, but again, he saith unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, and this dealing with the men, suffer you to put away your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. And look at this here. This is so powerful here. Well, I'll get to that in a second here. So from the beginning it was not so. Resets what? The standards. It's taking it all the way back to the beginning. Yahawasha bypassed Moses. He bypassed Jacob. He bypassed Abraham. He bypassed the very first polygamous marriage you see that Berean Scholar highlighted. He bypassed all of that. Yahawasha returns marriage to the original template of one man, one woman, one flesh, one covenant. This is exactly the same logic Malachi used in his question, did he not make them what? One, Akkad. So Yahawasha gave his disciples the harsh realities of those who desires marriage, showing who really can handle marriage. Look at what he says to them. Yahawasha didn't play. Look at what he said. Verse 10 and 11. His disciples say unto him, if the case of the man be so with his wife, it is not good to marry. They're like, wait a minute. So I guess it's better not, with all of this here, it's better not to, we better off not even marrying. We might as well just stay single. Look at what the Messiah said here. But he said unto them, all men cannot receive this saying, save they to whom it is given. Everyone that claimed to be married, they really wasn't ready for marriage. They didn't have any true understanding of what marriage is. That's a powerful word to say to his disciples. All men cannot receive this saying, save they to whom it is given. Thy word have I hid in my heart, that I might not sin before thee. That word is the commandments. Not everyone has the commandments written in their heart truly. So the disciples tells us they understood Yahawasha to be removing the loopholes. They realized he was ending the permissive framework they were used to. In other words, they understood him to be restoring Genesis, not restoring the behaviors during the time of Moses. So what is the covenant marriage template Apostle Paul used? All right. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21 through 25. Submitting yourselves one to who? Another. In the fear of who? Yahweh. Wives, Shath, submit yourselves unto your own husbands, Ayash, as unto Yahweh. But here's the kicker. Now we're going to get into the singular. For the husband, right? Ayash is the head of the wives. So we see plural right now, husbands. We see plural wives. Even as Mashayak is the head of the whole assembly. So he's using this parallel. assembly of witnesses, the Israelites. Now, your translation would say church, but the more accurate transliteration would be whole assembly of witnesses, the Israelites. And he is the savior of the body. Therefore, as the whole assembly of witnesses, the Israelites, in other words, you see that transliterated word church, is subject unto Christ. So let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. But look at how he breaks this down. Here it is. Husbands, right? Love your wives, even as Mashiach, Christ, also loved the whole assembly of witnesses of Israelites, transliterates to the church, and gave himself up, gave himself for it. Now watch how he gets into the singular. So this sets the tone, defining marriage as a covenant, relational, accountable, not hierarchical domination, and not expansion of desire. See, that's what many have basically reduced it to, being an expansion of the desire of their flesh. So polygamy inherently breaks mutuality, because it divides loyalty, affection, and responsibilities. It divides it. It removes it. Throughout the passage, Paul uses wife singular, husband singular, his wife, her husband, the wife, the husband. There is no plural construction anywhere, right? When you start really breaking down what I just read, singular and plural, right? I didn't put it there when I was reading it. I was just reading it verbatim. But when you actually go into the Greek, it's all singular. Okay, so if polygamy were acceptable, this would be the worst possible passage to argue from. That's why so many want to discredit Paul. Or you can, Paul was put in place to be a stumbling block. Yeah. To your flesh. Have you heard that one, Berean Scholar?
Yep.
And I'm sure you guys heard that one before, but this shuts it down. For we are members of his body, and of flesh, and of his bones. For this cause shall a man, Adam, singular, leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, singular, Ashath, and they, Shanayah, right? The two, Shanayah, shall be one, Akkad, flesh, Basha. Oh man, did that just drop the mic? Paul's writings is decisive. Paul ignores Moses's concessions, ignores cultural examples, ignores patriarchal narratives, and quotes creation just like Yahawasha in Matthew 19. They two, right? In other words, saying the two will become one. That is non-negotiable. All right. Any comments?
Just to let you know, I dropped the link to your teaching on your website. So anybody want to get more detailed teaching on these topics and get more scriptures that you can put down and study, click the link.
Family, we just dropped the mic, right? And we didn't even get into the examples here. But I wanted to lay the foundation, because I could have gone straight into the examples, but if you don't understand these key points that I highlighted, if you're trying to witness to someone who's trying to justify polygamy, guess what? You'll be twisted and turned in that conversation. You start with the Messiah. Well, if they refuse to start with the Messiah, first you establish, do you believe in the Messiah? Okay, now that I know you believe in the Messiah, but before we do that, because the Messiah always taught from the law and the prophets, so let's go to what the law says. Let's go just how I laid it out. You can't get around it.
That's it.
The Messiah made reference back to the original marriage. Malachi chapter 2 goes back to the original marriage. Paul went back to the original marriage. We have what? 3 witnesses. We're honoring the law of what? Witnesses. All right. All right. Let's see here. Did you want to continue here, or you want to break this up into two parts?
Oh, we got a lot more to go.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I ain't mean to do that. Because what the teaching, in fact, what Pastor just said is everything pointed back to the original. Even when Paul gave the standards for a leader in the church, he pointed back to the original. Am I correct?
Absolutely. When he started dealing with elders are supposed to be what?
Husband of wife. And not a replacement wife. We're gonna get into that anyway.
Oh man, somebody said cliffhanger, right? Who is the wife of Jacob's? Who is the original wife? Who's the wife of Jacob's? The wife of Jacob's youth.
Oh, we didn't have some.
You know what, family? I'm going to leave you with the cliffhanger because I gave you the answer, the formula,
and some of the people in the chat got it right. So
yeah, so I saw the questionnaire. We're going to have to do part 2, right, to this because, as you can see, it took some time to get here because I had to really lay down the foundation. You know, when you're dealing with these type of teachings, you got to make sure you leave no room for any misunderstandings or someone to take something that is said and to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to take what you said and run with it.
And you're probably right, because we got to get into not only the standards, the even the Most High used the marriage as a representation of his relationship to Egypt, to Israel.
To Israel. That's all through it.
I mean, and were we supposed to have multiple partners? Then no, he's a jealous Ahlahayam. He wants one, and we have to get back into the consequences that's happening. Some more, maybe should play some more testimonies by legal consequences that's happening too. Because number one, we're not breaking the laws of the Most High. We're breaking the laws of this country. So we'll get to all that.
Yeah. And like I said, family, this is a pretty lengthy discussion here, and we just got halfway through. I still have over 300 slides to go, and this is the scaled down version of it.
And when you spend 2 hours scaling down,
yeah. So
and again, guys, did you see? If you think he ain't telling the truth on that, I've dropped a link. There's 3 videos he have that's probably 2 hours apart. So there's 6 hours of teaching. So he has scaled this down.
And so what we'll do, because I have the examples like some of what Berean Scholar pointed out, those are some of those inside my presentation, because I deal with, for example, the 10 virgins, right? That's one of the passages that you hear about the 10 virgins. I use David to give you proper clarity. Nashayam in the Israeli Nashim. We're going to double back to that word. And so we're going to use some examples, and then we're going to put to test the wife of thy youth. And you could do it before we come again. Go back over and understand what wife of thy youth is based upon what we taught. Then you can then apply that to every person that had multiple wives. And an extra piece of homework, there's someone that had multiple husbands. I'm not going to tell you the answer today. When we come back for part 2, we'll be seeing if you guys discovered the answer. Shalom.
Shalom. Thank you, Pastor, for your time. Thank you for sharing this teaching. And for those of you who are looking for more of this, to go deeper, because there's a lot more. And also those people who've been, I've seen a couple of comments in the chat who know people who've been approached with this. You've been approached with this before. That's more teaching. We'll come back next week at the same time, same place. If you want us to come back, please, after we get off this live, go back to this video, make some comments, share the post to other people, because people need to hear this truth. Make sure people get this out, and we'll come back with part 2 of this. Thank you guys for being a part of this. Those of you who are faithful watching, hitting the like button. Pastor, you raise your hand. You want to say something?
Oh, I didn't know I raised my hand. I was clearing my throat, but
okay. Well, I'll let you clear your throat.
All right, let me clear. Anyway, but I would just say this, family. You know, and I say this over and over when I close out our Shabbat services as well as our live teachings online, and I've closed it out this way from pretty much the beginning of our ministry. Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 and 14. Fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahawah. These Egyptians that you see here today, they will not have power over us ever again. The Most High will fight for us. But here's the kicker, family. We have to hold our peace. The Hebrew word there is karash, which means be quiet. Can't go back, can't stay here. Keep moving forward. Shalom.
Hallelujah. Shalom.
What do you think about this topic? Remember to be a Berean scholar. As it is written in the book of Acts 17 verses 11 to 12. Now the Bereans were more noble-minded than the Thessalonians, for they received the message with great eagerness and examined the scriptures every day to see if these teachings were true. It's time to deepen your understanding and see your reflection within the sacred pages. Please click subscribe, and click the notification bell to stay up to date with the Berean Scholar channel.